Hey, it's Alex Rappa from BoardGameCo, and it's Week in Review time. Another coverage of news, what's going on in the week, assorted different things, all of that kind of stuff. And before we dive into it, I just want to cover the fact that the reason these games are here, because every week I get like one or two comments asking why the games are on the table, when sometimes I don't even talk about them that much. I usually talk with them at the end, the very end, but I guess they didn't stick around that long. But effectively, first of all, the reason they're here is because this is a board game channel, and so I think it's appropriate to have board games in the thumbnail. Now, I try to have a reason why they're in the thumbnail, but it could be me sitting on the couch alone, or it could be something to do with board games. And the games I usually pick are either going to be things that I'm talking about in the video, things that I potentially have reviewed last week or will be reviewing this week and we'll be talking about in the video, or in this case, and last week as well, games that I just hope to get to the table this next week. I plan on getting Black Rose Wars, Chronicles of Drunagor, and Western Legends to the table over the weekend. And I don't know if I will. It's certainly ambitious. I mean, they're three big games, but I hope to, and we'll see what actually happens. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about why on some of these, but we'll see. That's just that. Past that, weight loss. So, small little thing from 2 weeks ago. I forgot to actually mention it last week, and nobody commented, which means you're supposed to be holding me accountable. That's the whole deal here. But effectively, I'm trying to just be mindful of my weight. Pandemic, COVID, all that. I've slowly put on a few pounds over the past year, and I'm just trying to be mindful of it, and that's all. So, not making a huge deal of it, but definitely just talking about what my weight is or will be and losing weight. So 2 weeks ago, the starting point was 175.2. Last week was 174.7. Effectively, I lost half a pound. I'd like to lose more, but I also am still being fairly cavalier with my decisions and relying on the fact that I can sometimes get away with it and sometimes not. So we'll see. And by the way, I think I was pretty cavalier this week, so I'm not sure whether I will have lost weight this week. We'll find out next week, and we'll see what happens there. But that's going to be that. Past that, small little things. First of all, Steamforged Games. They are, like, one thing I touched upon this already in a video this week already, which we'll talk about, but I just wanted to touch upon the fact that Steamforged Games is replying to a lot of comments in their Kickstarter, meaning they have their Kickstarter, Monster Hunter World, and they're not taking the usual approach when you have these large campaigns. The usual approach is that people say what they want to say, and people are aggressive and say things, and then the companies choose to ignore people that they don't have good things to say to, or easy responses, and they only engage with people saying like, I'm so excited about this game, and they're like, oh my gosh, Jack, awesome, we're so happy you're excited. Someone else is like, why aren't you adjusting these stretch goals? No reply. So that's usually the format we see. Now, Steamforged Games is not taking that format. They're replying to not every comment, but they're replying to a wide variety of comments, including a ton of them that are anti the campaign or anti-past games or complaining about any number of different things, whatever it is. And Steamforged Games is being incredibly polite, incredibly well-mannered to basically every single person that they are replying to, which is kudos to them. I mean, it's hard. I guarantee you, as a small business owner, when you have to engage with and deal with customers who are upset about something, and those customers are choosing to no longer treat the person on the other end of the email as a human being, it is hard to be polite back. It's very hard. It's something that I've struggled over the years. I've gotten better at it, but I have not gotten perfect at it. I guarantee you that. It's just the nature of, yes, you got an issue with something. I understand that. That's our fault completely. Doesn't mean that there's not a human being here, and you're like attacking people as if they set out to make your life miserable, and you're just like treating like, I mean, if you look at the comments in Steamforged, they're like, you money hungry, cash grab, can't believe this, like, you know, you people should all, like, can't believe you'd ever get titles of any games. Like, there's like hacking of people that is just unreasonable, and kudos to Steamforged for being as well-mannered, even-mannered as they are being. Speaking of Steamforged, in terms of news, so not a lot of news this week. They got 3 or 4 tidbits, but first of all, Steamforged has gotten a Sonic IP. They made the announcement that they have, they're going to be doing a Sonic board game. Now, before you get too excited, it's not going to be some giant Sonic miniatures game with, 14 different figures and racing around the board, collecting deluxified metal rings, and having all these powers and abilities, because this character can move forward faster, this one can also pick up adjacent rings, and this character's going to do the loot. I mean, it sounds really fun, honestly, but no, they're not doing any of that. They are doing a Sonic card game, which just makes me less interested, because call me shallow. Like, no, actually, call me shallow in the comments. I mean, it's probably true, because if it were a miniatures game, I'd be interested, but it's a card game, and so I'm not. So I'm definitely shallow. That's not really a question at that point, I think. Past that, Black Rose Wars. One of the reasons Black Rose Wars is a game that I'm interested in getting to the table is because of the fact that Black Rose Wars, they posted on their Facebook page, on Ludus Magnus Studios page, some sort of hint or tease about a future Black Rose Wars something. I'm not entirely clear what it is, not entirely sure if it's an expansion, a new title, but it seemed to hint something upcoming. I assume it'll be Kickstarter related, and it seemed to be Black Rose Rewards related, and so I figured I'll finally use that as an opportunity to break this guy out and give it a shot, because I've been wanting to play it for a while. I've read the rulebook already, but I just haven't gotten the opportunity yet, and knowing that there's more stuff that I may want to spend money on, that is a good incentive for trying to get to the table. No idea when, no idea if or how, or maybe I'm just imagining it all. I don't know at all, but either way, that's why I'm playing Black Rose Wars. From there we have Manhattan Project. Manhattan Project Energy Empire, the Cold War expansion, I believe designed by Luke Laurie. I know Manhattan Project Energy Empire was. I don't know if the expansion was, but I believe it was. Effectively, they had a Kickstarter that kind of stalled because the founder of the company passed away. The owner of the company passed away. Now, his widow has been trying to manage it to a degree, but it hasn't really moved much. Now, they finally announced that they have found a new publisher, so it seems like things will pick up there. If you are someone who's been waiting on that and patiently waiting, hopefully politely waiting, because it's one thing to complain about things, it's another thing to complain about things when it's because someone passed away, then, I mean, yeah, basically you can expect to see you can hope to see movement there on that front. And then lastly, we have My Singing Monsters. My Singing Monsters is going to be a app, basically. If you're not familiar with it, it goes ba-doom, 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 boom, ba-da-dum, ba-da. I can't do it. You need the harmony. That's the whole thing. It thrives on the harmony. But effectively, they announced that they are putting out an app. Now, I wasn't, not an app, and they already are an app. They announced they're putting out a board game. No music in the board game, just set expectations. I was not initially interested until I saw this part over here, designed by Sen-Fung Lim and Jay Cormier. And that's something that makes me a lot more interested. Meaning, there's a difference between an app being put out, and you'd think, by the way, this would be coming from Lucky Duck Games. They are the ones who are known for their IP-based translations, and Sen-Fung Lim is generally involved in a lot of those. Not all. Actually, I think it could be all. He's involved in a lot of these app-to-board games translations, which have done different degrees of well, but honestly, the ones I've played have been pretty decent. Kingdom Rush is great. Vikings Gone Wild was good. Didn't stick with me, but it was good. Mutants is one that I'm really enjoying. I think it's behind me. Yeah, it's right behind me on the mantle over there. So lots of solid. That is Sen-Fung Lim, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, it is. Looking at the box there. But yeah, so I am interested. Have not got the opportunity to play this yet, but there will be a review coming for that one at some point. But in case you like the game, the app, your kids like the app, well, there's going to be a monster game. And I believe there are miniatures, not in the prototype, but I don't think they're in the prototype. But I believe from the video I saw, it seems like there will be miniatures for this game. And that covers your board game news, which brings us to what I played this week. Oh no, one more thing, because I actually got, I wasn't planning on saying this, but it's literally the update on my phone from what's it called? Wonderland's War from Skybound Games. But Wonderland's War, Skybound Games, they apparently, they are opening the pledge manager for Wonderland's War for another week. Basically, they have back and forth, they're making some changes to rules or small streamline things, and they're doing their last production run, but the pledge manager will be open for another week. This is your last opportunity to jump in if you are interested in that. Which brings us to what I played. Starting with, let's start with, I don't even know where to go here. Let's start with Distilled. I don't know what I covered last week, but Distilled is going to be a game that it's a prototype, played it online with the creator. I hope to play it again because solid game coming to Kickstarter. I'll have more information for you soon. We have Theurgy. I got Theurgy to the table. That's going to be one that the Kickstarter just ended, but I got the physical copy of the game to do a review, so I'm getting more plays in, doing a review hopefully before the pledge manager goes up, but expect a review of that. We have Castlescape, which is another prototype. I will have coverage of that as well. We have Merchants of Magik, which is going to be a roll and write game that I cover this more in the, I have a review going up today. I think today. I have a review of Merchants of Magik going up today, playthrough and review, but effectively it is a roll and write game in the Set a Watch universe by Rock Manor Games that is solidly fun. Really enjoying that one. Highly recommend checking it out. It's one that very much grew on me with multiple plays. I liked it from the beginning, but I also had critiques, and the more I played it, the more it's fun. I think it does need an expansion to keep it variable, but for right now, I'm enjoying. Then we have Honeybuzz, which is also going up later today. Honeybuzz was going to be a game that I played with Rena and Shira. We have a playthrough and review of it. You can just skip ahead to the final thoughts if you don't want the playthrough part. But, that'll be going up later today. We have Chai Tea for Two. That's going to be another game that I got a few plays of. I'll be getting some more plays of it and it's over there on the table. I'll be covering that one shortly. Kickstarter goes up May 4th. We have Architects of the West Kingdom, which is one that I actually reviewed way back when I first started the channel, but I tried to get it back to try it again. I will see how it goes. There's more plays coming of it. If my mind changes on it, then I might do an updated review. If not, then not. But, short version, by the way. Architects of the West Kingdom, that series, effectively, I think they have 3 games in the top 100. If I'm not mistaken, they have Paladins of the West Kingdom, Architects of the West Kingdom, and Raiders of the North Sea, all in the top 100. I think they're all 3. I could be wrong. But, I mean, that's incredibly impressive for a single, not just a single designer, but a single series. I mean, or arguably 2 series, depending on how you look at it. But to have that kind of presence in the top 100 is fairly impressive. Good for him, but it's one that I didn't love any of the games in the series. I have Viscounts, haven't played it yet, but every other game I've played from the series, I've liked but not loved. But I decided to get both Raiders and Architects back because I want to give them a shot. I want to give them a fair shot and see where they land and play them more. Not that I didn't give them a fair shot the first time, but if they're in the top 100, I feel more of a reason and incentive to go back, try it again with a different group this time, and see how they play out. Because Architects and Raiders are games I played with my family in Toronto, as opposed to this time I'm playing them with my game group. So we'll see how the dynamic changes things. Then we have Antique 2, got a game of that in. That's going to be the multiplayer version of Antique Duellum, which I really enjoy. We have a game of Cat and Mouse, which is going to be a game that is from the Exploding Kittens franchise. They sent me a box of games to cover. I'm kind of making my way through them. I've gotten 4 of the 5 played so far. Once I get that 5th one played, I'm going to combine them all into one review video. I mean, it's not that they're bad games. They're actually better than I thought. We'll come to that in the reviews. But they're not really the type of games I typically review on this channel, so I'm not giving 5 separate videos to them. But a game of Cat and Mouse is one of the games they have. Got a few games of that in this week, and I have one more to go before I put together a review on there. Then we have Four Gardens by Arcane Wonders. We'll have a review of that soon, and then Codenames, got some more plays of Codenames in, and there's some other things as well, because I stopped tracking Sunday, it looks like, which means I missed everything from Monday through today. I'll try to remember what it was later and log it all. From there we go to the Week in Review. Week in Review is going to be as follows. Week in Review, starting off on Saturday, we have 5 for Finden by Haba Games and Valor and Villainy by Skybound Games, speaking of Wonderland's War and whatnot. So, 5 for Finden is one that overall short version, not staying in the collection. Ricky and I were both okay with it. We didn't love it. We thought it was fine. It's got its roll and write polyominoes, both things I like, but when you combine them, didn't work for me. It ended up being a little too chaotic and madhouse and not as rewarding. And we had Valor and Villainy, which is a game that is staying in my collection. They actually have a Kickstarter coming for that one as well, which, pay attention to that one. They'll have an expansion for, this one was Valor and Villainy Minions of Mordak. They're going to have Valor and Villainy something. I don't remember the title of this one. But effectively, they are aiming to add a lot of different things, from new characters, new stuff, adding legacy light elements, changing the setting, and I believe they are also trying to work on improving the game time. One of the biggest consistent things. I put out a review of it. I overall give it a 4 or 5. Really liked it, but I did say the game is fairly long, especially for the weight class it's sitting in. And I saw a lot of comments saying, yeah, completely agree with you. Really enjoyed it, also long. And I believe that they are working on addressing that in terms of the expansion, or the standalone sequel, I should say. So we'll see. But overall, I like it. I don't know if it has legs long term, but for right now, I very much enjoy it. From there, we had Sunday. Sunday was top 10 Polarizing Games. Top 10 Polarizing Games, which is a hybrid of overrated games as well as games that just cause a stir, cause attention and whatnot. And I got comments about saying I should have added The Mind, which I agree with, and that I should have added Gloomhaven, but I agree with that too. But also, it's a top 10 list, and I wouldn't want to disrespect the number 10 in any top 10 list. Also, brief conversation. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but brief conversation about the fact that I also talked about Puerto Rico. And for those who don't know, Puerto Rico is generally the face of the colonialism topic or of conversation around in board games. And I think I was fairly even-handed about it. I basically said that it's a sensitive subject and people are bothered by it. And I'm not saying get rid of the games. In fact, I have games. I have Endeavor Age of Sail on my shelf. It has slaves in the game. That's a real thing in the game. I have 5 tribes. I believe I have the Fakir version, but I could be wrong. I think I have the Fakir version. But overall, I'm not saying get rid of any game with slaves in it. That's not what I was saying. I said that be mindful of the conversation, be mindful of the fact that there are people who are bothered by it, and we should be examining the other side of our biases. Whatever we're biased towards, try to challenge that. My instinctive reaction when I first heard about these things with colonialism was that it's not a problem. It's not an issue, and people are making an issue out of nothing. And so I tried to challenge that, because that's what I mean in general. If you want to grow in any conversation, if you don't want to be caught off guard when you enter into a debate and someone brings up 4 points that you didn't think of, then challenge your preconceived notions. And even just the general idea of talking in a video about being conscious of the other side, and without even laying down any law of this or that, just saying just be mindful that there are people who might be affected by this stuff. it was enough to trigger a decent amount of comments from people who were affronted that I would suggest that someone should be bothered by it. I mean, and I there are a lot of comments saying, people should just toughen up and not be bothered by things. And I agree, by the way. I think people should toughen up and not be bothered by things. I think that includes everyone, including people who are upset that I suggested that maybe we should look at the other side of, the conversation. That's also something to be bothered by. It's so, we're all tied up in our own biases. We're all tied up in the things we tend to believe, and we get stuck there. We get stuck there so much on both sides of the conversation. I'm not defending either side right now. I'm genuinely just saying that everyone, myself included, we get stuck on the other side of the conversation. We get so sure that we're right that we stop listening. We just stop paying attention. In general, if you're confronted with something that doesn't sound pleasant to you, try taking the other side. Whatever that is. And I could argue both ways. I can sit there and come up with 5 reasons why there should not be an issue at all and colonialism and board games should be here left, right, and center. I can come up with those reasons. I can also come up with 5 reasons why they shouldn't be in board games and why we should get rid of them. Challenge your preconceived notions, whatever they may be, whichever side, whatever topic of conversation it is. But start with taking the other side. Don't wait for someone to do it for you. You'll find yourself a lot better off or a lot more well-rounded, I would say. You'll be a lot more well-rounded if you don't mind, if you focus less. It's a quote, I'm sure I've said it on the channel before, but it's a quote I heard once that in every conversation, you're either right or you're learning something. And I believe in that. You are either right or you're learning something. Which would you rather be? There's no value to being right, but there is a value to developing and adding to your knowledge. There's so many facets. I mean, I've talked about different conversations. I've talked about things in the past on this channel and had those viewpoints challenged. I said cancel culture once about Elon Musk and ISIS Vanguard, and I had that challenged, and the other person was right. It's not cancel culture. I'm not abandoning the problem I had there, but it wasn't cancel culture. There's a balance to understanding that we use words, we use phrases, we say things on both sides of the conversation. We're so focused on being right sometimes, and we just stop listening, which is just interesting. Anyways, that was longer than I intended to be. Going on to Monday. Monday was to back or not to back, which was the typical to back or not to back. We covered a bunch of games. We covered Marvel United, covered Canvas, covered Connecting Flights is one that I'm paying attention to that I wasn't before. A bunch of games, don't remember all of them, but that is what that video is for. From there we had Tuesday. Tuesday was going to be 3 reviews. We had Hidden Leaders, we had Save Patient Zero, and we had In the Hall of the Mountain King. And the Hall of the Mountain King by J. Cormier again. So we have, him showing up again. But effectively, Save Patient Zero, Hidden Leaders is one that's on Kickstarter, doing fairly well. I'm happy for them. They funded and everything else. Save Patient Zero is struggling. I'm intrigued why it's struggling because they seem to have a decent amount of content creation around the game and people who like the game. I enjoyed it. I covered it. I want the game to fund so I can have a copy of the game because it's a fun little thinky puzzle between, either solo, 2 players, whatever it is. So I'm intrigued and I hope they do well. And then we have In the Hall of the Mountain King, which I covered because Fall of the Mountain King is coming out soon by Burnt Island Games. That one's not designed by J. Cormier, I believe, but In the Hall of the Mountain King was, and it's one that I've had for a while now and decided to finally do a review of that one. But effectively, I gave it a 4 to 5. Solid game. There's something about the game that pulls it back for me. I haven't clearly defined what it is, but something about the game that doesn't check every single box. Solid game. Every time I play it, I enjoy it. But it's not one that I'm like, oh, that's the best game ever. It's one that it's a solid game. Happy to play it. And the truth is, I think Burnt Island games have typically been in that range. They generally have been 4 to 5 for me. I would say Endeavor Age of Sails 4 to 5. What's the other one? The most recent one. Into Deep's 4 to 5. I think because they manage to be so unique in the feeling they bring that they do stand out in a crowd, but they also sometimes don't hit that final line, so to speak. So we'll see. But that is going to be that. Then on Wednesday we had 2 videos. We had Monster Hunter World, Should You Back It or Not, which we covered, and that short version of that is Steamforged Games. They don't seem to have as much exclusives as I thought they would. You can watch the full video, but they do have exclusives and they do have daily unlocks, daily reveals, whatever it is. I'm hoping by the end of the campaign I'll be more sold, but even with the exclusive they have so far, I think there'll be enough value there that I think people will want the stuff, and I think it'll hold its value with the miniatures, the game. It's a solid game, solid miniatures. Steamforged Games, even the bad ones, have done a decent job of holding the value with the Kickstarter exclusives. They are shifting up the model here a bit, so it's not as clear of a win, but we'll see how it goes. But overall, I still think it's a safe back. And then later that day, we had a Chronicles of Drunagor unboxing. That's going to be this guy over here. I got my copy of the game, and that means it's time to get to the table so I can start, playing it and hopefully get a bunch of plays in. And I mean, it's a campaign game, so I'll have to get more than a few, and then once I'm done, get a review of that. So we'll see. Chronicles Drunagor. And I went to a typical rambling unboxing and whatnot. I had fun with it, as I usually try to in these unboxings. Then from there we had Thursday. We had 2 videos again. It's been a tough week trying to. I have too many things that I need to cover. But we have After the Empire Right For You, Wrong For You video. That's me copying Quacklope's format of his reviews. And that's because he copied my format, doing a play that's not that. And so fair is fair, okay? Fair is fair, Jesse. I'm going to copy your formats forever for now. He also did Play This Not That twice, though, so I probably owe him a video. But After the Empire, another solid 4 to 5. It needs a little more variability to keep the game completely fresh, but the actual game that is there is so much fun. I believe they're working on expansions. I'm not certain. I know they have a solo expansion in the Kickstarter and the GameFound, but I know it's on GameFound now, by the way. Make sure to check it out on GameFound now. You can get the Deluxified upgrades, all that stuff. But yeah, After the Empire, 4 to 5. Then from there we had. Later that day, we had Right For You. We had Play This Not That of Primal and Monster Hunter World together with Jeremy Howard, and that was a fun video because it's Jeremy Howard, and Jeremy Howard's awesome. But it ran long because any conversation with Jeremy Howard tends to run long because there's so much we can talk about. I have a hard time. I managed to cut it short, and the only reason I managed to cut it short, it would have gone for another half an hour easily, but I basically had a limit. I had an hour window, and it already went over that hour window, so that worked out well. But anyways, Primal vs. Monster Hunter World. Short version is we both prefer Primal. Jesse and Jan from Quacklope both prefer Monster Hunter World. King of Average prefers Primal. King of Average's wife, I believe, prefers Monster Hunter World. And by the way, I'm listing all these people because there's only a small subset of people who've played both these games. And there's a decent amount of people in that subset who prefer Monster Hunter World. For myself, Primal's an easy win. I love Monster Hunter World. I'm going to be getting the whole thing all in, adding to my collection. But Primal's an easy win for me. It's not a question. I just love so much the card play and interplay and mechanisms bringing to the table. But within the subset of people who've played both these games, there's a decent portion of them that do prefer Monster Hunter World. But anyways, watch that video. We go more in back and forth, covering different aspects of the game, the Kickstarters, the value, the mechanics, all those different things, and doing all of that. Friday was going to be board game upgrades. This is a video that I did a board game deluxification and upgrades video about a month ago, sometime early in May, and I'm doing another one now, and I probably will be doing more of these. Effectively, after that first video, I had 1 or 2 companies reach out to me saying, hey, we'd love to send you stuff to cover in your videos, and I was like, I'm fine with that, but I'm also, I'm already too crammed as it is. I'm trying to avoid doing dedicated videos for specific stuff, and so I'd rather do, basically combined videos. Maybe once a month I'll do a video on different things companies send me and or stuff that I own myself, and it likely will be a mix because I want to balance that. And so I covered a few things in that video. I covered Meeple Source upgrades, I covered some Witcher dice, and again, so Witcher dice and Meeple Source upgrades are things that were sent to me. I covered the Marvel Champions inserts. Those are so good. If you like Marvel Champions, check out those inserts. They're not inserts, they full on trays of Marvel Champions trays, basically, to cover all your Marvel Champion stuff. I covered Railroad Inc., which is my own Deluxified thing. I don't know what else I covered. I feel, Chai Tea for 2. They didn't ask me to cover that, but I love the trays so much that I threw them in the video. But basically, I looked through my own collection of stuff I have, as well as stuff that have been sent, and I figure out what goes into that video. So it might be a monthly video. It'll ultimately be whenever I have stuff to show, but I'll talk about it. And better or worse, I'll talk about it too. I mean, I complained about the visibility of the Witcher dice, and I had some small issues with the Marvel Champions case. The Meeple Source upgrades I have no issues with. Ultimately, it comes down to whether you're okay with the price of them and whether you like the look of them. But there's no issues. They're just tokens, so nothing to complain about. You either like them or you don't. And then Saturday's going to be today, wrapping up. So today we have Merchants of Magik. We have a review coming, a playthrough and review coming at 12, and then we have Honeybuzz playthrough and review coming at 2, and that's going to be today. From there, we have next week. Next week, we're going to have a few things. We have Tuesday's going to be another review day. We're going to have Lost Empires, which is an upcoming Kickstarter. We have Asonia, hopefully. I haven't gotten it filmed yet, so hopefully I get that one done. And then Canvas. So, Canvas is an active Kickstarter. I think it's a good time to play the base game and do a playthrough and review of that. And then on Sunday, I believe, we have top 10 upcoming Kickstarters to pay attention to, which effectively is not like the 10 biggest Kickstarters, just the opposite. There are 10 Kickstarters that I've had the opportunity to play, games I've gotten my hands on, and I think they're worth paying attention to because I've enjoyed them so far. And they range in when they're coming out from like next month to 4, 5, 6 months down the road. And so that's basically it. That has been your week in review. Once again, I am Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your week, and as always, have a good one.